My name is Dr. Sawsan Jaber, and I am an English department chair at Maine West High School in Des Plaines, Illinois. And I think that I can say that my last 10 years worth of work has really been rooted in equity and rooted in elevating student voice and agency so that schools are working with them as opposed to working for them and doing things for them. And so a lot of the work that I've been doing and conference speaking that I've been doing as well has brought student voice to the center. I've co-presented with my students in about 25 different conferences just since this year, this new 2023 started. And I think that hearing students talk about who they are after they've interrogated their identity and they've understood who they are, the intersectionality of their identities, and really getting to hear them talking about global issues and know their part as civically engaged citizens, understanding that they have great impact in the choices that they make as people and as professionals, working to just break down stereotypes and stigmas that are associated with identities and getting students to just really humanize historically criminalized people and understand their role in doing that work all the time. Has been a really big part of it. And watching them kind of come to those understandings and recognizing and realizing the power that they have in creating authentic outputs that they can share with real-world audiences to impact sending those messages, taking back those narratives, and sharing them out with the real world has been super powerful. A lot of that work comes from the fact that I think in my years of experience in school, I have never seen myself represented as a student, and even in educational spaces as an educator, the macroaggressions that exist with people who look like me, particularly in the United States, I can speak to that even though I've taught in other countries, is a real thing. And so I think just along the lines of, like, I've been called a terrorist by both parents and students. I've had an administrator come to me and tell me that my Palestinian identity was offensive and asked me to tone it down. My daughter was asked to apologize for 9/11 in front of her English class at one point. And so thinking about those stories as current events and things that have happened in the last few years, and taking into consideration the fact that there are actual laws that are being put into place to silence and keep Arabs and Muslim identities out of our country, to me, this work is very personal. And it is something that I think is really important for us to engage in, because as an educator, if these things are happening to me as an adult, and I know that how they make me feel and I know where they're coming from, then we know that these are things that our students and our kids are experiencing. I always say schools can build and schools can break, and these experiences can really define a student's identity, can define how they feel about themselves, can define a lot of different things. And I often say that our world is quite broken in a lot of different ways, and that's why we're seeing kind of violence very prevalently. In our own country, in the United States, we see that in the form of school shootings. And so schools have the power to be healing spaces. And I think when students really understand themselves and have the opportunity to create a social, emotional, be strong socially, emotionally, they can we can create space for them to be content creators and co-designers, and they have a clear understanding of who they are. They're creating windows for other students to understand who they are as well. We're eliminating a lot of that gatekeeping that's happening in our schools, but we're also creating space for people to build strong communities, and that's something that we really need. It's our long-term investment for healing. And so as a person whose identity is often conflated, people don't understand the difference of being an Arab or a Muslim, right? People don't know that an Arab is a person who can be of any faith, and a Muslim is a person whose faith that person can be from any country. Just a really misunderstood identity. I think that these conversations need to happen more prevalently, so we are not putting people into boxes and labeling them and stereotyping them accordingly and breaking them in our schools. And so that is what many of my sessions will be focused on. That is what my classroom instruction will be focusing on. And hopefully we'll start to see that happening more predominantly in schools so that we can start to heal our world.